Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons & Dragons, from yucky universes to yummy unicorns. And today, we're talking about Yugoloths.
The Dungeoncast. All right, Brian. So today we're talking about Yugoloths, Yugoloths.
That's a funny name.
It is a funny name, and it is the name of the third major classification of fiends.
Oh,
also,
a fiend?
It's a type of fiend.
Okay.
It's the third. It's the third major type of fiend besides demons and devils, and it's also the third major power at play in the Blood War. So Yugoloths kind of have a lot going on.
There's a third party?
There is a third party involved.
I didn't know.
Indeed. Originally, Yugoloths were actually called daemons, but they had
Matt Damon's?
Matt Damon's, but they had their name changed when in the 80s there was like this fundamentalist Christian scare of like a Satanist scare when it came to D&D.
Oh, like in the 80s?
Yeah, in the 80s. So when that happened, they the makers of D&D changed the names of the fiends from devils, demons, and daemons to Tanari, Beatizu, and Yugoloths.
Okay.
And the Tanari and Beatizu got renamed back to the original demons and devils, but Yugoloths are like, we'll just keep them the same.
Okay.
And I actually kind of
that
like
way when
it.
your parents open up the book, they don't see the word demon like over and over again. They just see some jargon.
Exactly.
Okay.
They just see jargon was the idea. And I think the
You
reason
would have to read it to know.
Right. And I think the reason they didn't change Yugoloths back to daemons is because
Matt
you already
Damon.
have demons and daemons. That's just kind of confusing, I think, personally. and Yugoloths work, so here we are. So Yugoloths, they hail from the lower plane of Gehenna, but they can be found in literally all of the lower planes. They are a neutral evil fiend.
Okay.
You know, so while devils are lawful evil and demons are chaotic evil, Yugoloths are inherently neutral evil. And because of this, their motives and their drives differ greatly from both demons and devils. While demons are driven by destruction, hatred, and corruption, the devils are driven by ambition, tyranny, and power. Yugoloths have a strict "what's in it for me" philosophy.
Okay.
It's kind of like what you said in the UNT episode where you said neutral evil is really tied to selfishness.
Yeah.
In this case, it is very much so tied into like the glory of self. And with the Yugoloths specifically, it's about greed. They enjoy acts of torture, murder, and villainy as much as any self-respecting fiend, and they see value in things like rules and hierarchy that the devils use. But first and foremost in any Yugoloth's mind is self-gain, avarice, and worldly possessions. They desire worldly wealth, money.
So one is chaotic, one is lawful, and one is whatever it takes.
Exactly. Very much so. So
the neutral is very, very powerful.
In a
way. You're not bound by like, chaotic character isn't going to be lawful because it's not in their nature. That is kind of what is implied. Or is it implied, I'm chaotic, so I'll do... I think that kind of takes away from neutrality if you treat it like that.
When it comes to demons or chaotic evil as like a thing, the alignment can be very limiting because like you're so one-track minded. It's about destruction, chaos, and entropy. You're about taking stuff down and ripping things apart, and like you're not building anything a lot of the time.
Okay.
And then while you're lawful evil, you are kind of stuck in these strict set of codes, which could be limiting. Which we'll kind of get into. The Yugoloths definitely see it the way you're seeing it, where it's like we're better because we're not confined to any of these ideals.
Right.
They actually see themselves as a pure evil, like they're the true evil in their own eyes. So now Yugoloths, much like demons and devils, have a whole myriad of kinds, appearances, and classifications of power levels. Unlike devils and demons, though. Like, okay, so with the devils, they got this real kind of like almost biblical devil look or like divine comedy kind of look.
Totally. Like a classic standard, like fallen angel.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
While the demons just generally look horrific and monstrous.
Okay. So is the kind of depiction of devils is like Renaissance-y kind of?
Very Renaissance-y, for sure. Yeah, okay. Exactly.
And what is this, like modern sci-fi that we're talking about?
Huh?
For the Yugoloth?
For the Yugoloths, they are they vary very wildly, and there's no rhyme or reason to like the way they look. Some of them are like insectoid humanoids. Some of them are like literal like jackal men.
Okay.
who like wear fine garments. Others do look kind of devilish. Some kind of look demonish. Like one just looks like a freaking alien, like an actual like gray
a little green man
alien, not like a little green man, like a tall, thin, gaunt green man, but like an alien,
like the ones that sell beef jerky on the way to Las Vegas from California.
I have no idea what you're talking about now. I don't know, but maybe.
Okay,
sure.
yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. So but move on.
So they vary wildly, and we'll talk about some of the more prominent ones. But
do any of them have two heads?
I'm sure some of them do. None that I know of.
Shout out to Demogorgon.
Oh God. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a kind of an image of the kinds of beings we're talking about as we get into this.
Okay.
So they are heavily involved in the Blood War, and
like Demogorgon.
Yes, much like Demogorgon, but unlike Demogorgon, they consider themselves a completely neutral party in the affair, interfering and taking sides only when they deem it profitable or having the potential to further their own schemes.
Opportunists.
Yeah, they're opportunists, and they often organize themselves into private armies for hire for either side of the war.
Oh.
Yeah, and whoever bids the highest gets the army, and they reserve the right to switch sides mid-fight if they please.
Okay.
So they're super unreliable.
Yeah, so the contractual obligation that a devil would like lend to this like sting operation could be like immediately just like thrown to the wayside.
Indeed. And even if they did promise, they'll just I lied. What
I
are you
lied,
gonna do? I lied.
as
Fuck
I have
it.
from the very beginning.
Later.
Okay, so they're meeting up with these other parties and they're getting contracted to do work. And what's the payment? Souls? Are we talking souls?
No, the payment's money. These guys, worldly wealth is what Yugoloths desire.
Oh, what?
Gold,
Just straight up gold?
Gems, worldly wealth.
Wow.
They don't give a shit about souls.
Well, that's super easy for devils for sure.
Yeah, devils definitely have the wealth.
Yeah,
more so than
how
demons.
do demons get money? They have to eat people and spit it back out.
The same way that devils do from people and mortals and whatnot.
Oh, they're making deals and shit.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, considering
never heard of demons making deals with people.
The demon lords will make deals.
Oh,
yeah, but like not that because they want to make a deal, but it's just like we'll give you this, fight for us.
Oh yeah, okay,
that's my demon lord voice apparently.
Okay,
but yeah, so
like
it's not like a contract that's signed with when Demogorgon hires some Yugoloths. It's more like here now do the thing. While with the devils, it's like sign this contract and yada yada yada.
Oh, okay,
we need you to be here, and like they talk strategy and tactics. And
gotcha.
Whatnot. So usually if one side offers more money mid fight, they'll be like, all right, cool, we're fighting for you
just
now.
Mid-fight.
So,
did we get any more gold in the last 20 minutes? Okay, throw it at that.
Yeah, exactly. So the Yugoloths, they really kind of like introduce this chaotic element to the fight that's already really chaotic.
Yeah, it's like a sub fight going on. Like who can control this like rando band of crazy.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly. Now, and the Yugoloths' loyalty,
people.
no matter what, can't be guaranteed. Like, even with all the money, if shit gets too hot, they might just say, yeah, we're done.
Yeah, because they're weakening both sides by playing this role.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into
doing
that.
the thing.
Yeah. So, because of this flipping of constant sides, devils and demon armies will often carry like these massive chests of wealth to bribe Yugoloths on the spot.
Right.
Or to have Yugoloths that they've contracted, like, kind of holding a reminder like, hey, this is why you guys are here. Don't forget about this awesome chest of awesomeness that I got right behind.
Yeah, totally. It's a mystery grab bag. You don't know what's in it, but I promise it's good.
Exactly. But then this turns these chests into targets for the other side.
Yeah.
And it turns into this whole slog fest.
Oh my gosh.
So it's really interesting.
That's messy.
Yeah, it's very, very messy. Yugoloths can afford to be this fickle and unpredictable when it comes to the Blood War due to the fact that they are unaffected by death when not on their home plane. Now, this is normal for all fiends. Fiends that are not killed on their home plane don't die. They just go back to their home plane.
Right.
And since most of the Blood War fights are happening in either Beator or the Abyss,
they're immortal, basically.
They just jump into the fray.
They just
don't care.
respawn, but they respawn really far away.
Exactly. Now, fights can happen and do happen, on the plane of Gehenna. And when this happens, the prices of the Yugoloths just skyrocket. And if you're not looking like the winning side of them, tough luck, they're gone.
Yeah, I'd be out. I'd be like, well, home is cool, but if like all this shit is going down here, later.
Yeah. So this willingness to involve themselves so heavily in the Blood War can and often is chalked up to their inherent evil nature and greed. But there are those who theorize on a higher purpose to their involvement. So basically, Even though Yugoloths are not lawful, there's this strict hierarchy to them. It's a power hierarchy. You know, the more powerful you are, the more command you have. But the Ultraloths, which we'll get into later, run the show.
Okay.
And they make all the big decisions. And like, no Yugoloth party can do anything against an Ultraloth's wishes. It just won't happen. So there's this theory that some say that the involvement of the Yugoloths is very calculated to the point where the idea is they're trying to weaken the demons and devils to the point where the Yugoloths can then rise up and claim the cosmos for themselves.
I mean, that's what I got from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like just that little bit of like, well, we're for hire.
Yeah, I think
for the highest bidder.
Right.
When there's only two sides.
Right. I think it's a bit of both. I think that like on the lower level, the Yugoloths, they love the wealth. They love doing it for the wealth. It's very like
they do it for the money. They
do it for the money.
They love throwing fat stacks at fine ladies. Or
sure, absolutely. But my point is like at the lower levels, it is exactly what it seems to be. They're just they'll do it for the money. They love the mayhem and they love not being able to die. So it's a win-win-win.
That's
but
money.
On the upper echelon stuff, there's a bigger goal going on. And
okay,
that's kind of how I see it. So, like I said, Yugoloths see themselves as the superior evil to demons and devils, and they think the whole lawful and chaoticness is silly. And why should?
Wrong. Huh? No, never mind.
And they say, why should either of these parties rule? We should rule.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about, where do the Yugoloths come from? Because we've already established like how the devils were made with Asmodeus and the fallen angels and the corruption, and then how the abyss generates demons infinitely. So where do Yugoloths come from? Now there's two major origin stories.
Yeah, well, when a mommy and a daddy love each other very much.
Yeah, no. So the Monster Manual claims that the first Yugoloths were created by an extremely powerful coven of night hags at the behest of Asmodeus. So remember, night hags are considered fiends.
Yeah.
And they dwell in Gehenna and they dwell in Hades and a few of the other like lower planes, and they deal with souls and whatnot, and they're very powerful. I mean, one served as an archduke for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I could see a coven of extremely powerful night hags would probably be able to create a race of fiends. And they do this at the behest of Asmodeus because he commissions this creation in order to have an army under his control that isn't bound by Beator or the laws of Beator.
Okay.
That can do things outside of the law.
We need the A-team.
We need the A-team.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm going to make one.
So
I'm going to summon it with some night hags.
So for a while, he's actually in control of the Yugoloths completely. In order to maintain this control of the army, the hags craft these 4 tomes with the true names of every Yugoloth they create recorded into them.
Okay.
Now, these tomes end up being known as the Books of Keeping, and whoever has the Books of Keeping controls completely all the Yugoloths that they have the true names for. Like that's kind of a thing. We didn't really talk about it much in the Demons and Devil episode because I don't see it used much, but there is very much in the same way that like if you know the true name of a fey creature, you have control of them.
Yeah, totally.
If you have the true name of a demon or devil, you have control of them.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Again, I don't see it used much, so I never brought it up, but it was mentioned extensively in
Names
the Yugoloth
have power.
reading.
They keep that shit on lock.
Names
though.
have power. Yeah, and they keep that shit on lock.
You got to go to hell to get those names.
So furthermore, the hags recorded even names of other fiends that cross them. So supposedly there are names of demon lords and archdukes in these books.
Oh, shoot.
But no one really knows because at some point, hags being hags, the coven completely implodes due to like jealousy and,
just some basic hag stuff.
Basic hag stuff. And in the ensuing power grab between the 3 of them, all 4 books get lost. And so they're all floating out there, and that's supposed to be like a device that you can use as a dungeon master of like, you found a book of keeping. Now what the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah.
Because if now you could possibly have control over all these.
It works the opposite of the Death Note. You have to erase the names in there to kill demons and devils.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But no.
You need a special eraser.
No one knows where they are. So
Okay.
that's the first origin story of Yugoloths. But before we get into the second, let's take a short rest.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the episode where we're not talking about the last thing we were talking about. We're talking about something else. That something else is you and our love for you because you're listening to the show. Like if you can hear the sound of my voice, you should also be able to feel my love. Right, Will?
Indeed. I feel it over here.
Oh, man. Oh, no. Thank you guys very much. We really appreciate everybody who participates in the show. Thank you to everybody on Patreon. Thank you to everybody in the Discord. Thank you to everybody leaving likes, subscribes, and comments on YouTube. We really appreciate you guys so much. You can find us on soundcloud.com/thedungeoncast, YouTube @thedungeoncast on Twitter, thedungeoncast@gmail.com if you want to leave us some critiques, feedback, questions. And if you want to tell somebody about the show, we would really appreciate that too. Just tell them any of the things I just told you about where you can find us. That'd be great. Do you have anything to add, Will?
No.
All right, back to the show. We've returned.
Indeed, we have.
We are back.
Talking about more fiend stuff.
More fiends.
We've been spending a lot of time in these lower planes. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, but like, what's left after this? Is there more?
We'll probably do episodes on Gehenna and Hades and stuff.
Oh, okay. And then like specific like people.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to revisit a lot of the fiends just because there's a lot of fiends that we haven't gotten to talk about because there's so many of them.
There's a lot of fiends.
Yeah. And including today, we're just going to touch on like most of like the main Yugoloths, but there's a lot of different Yugoloth types.
A lot of Yugoloths, a lot of demon lords.
Yeah. Yeah. Demon lords are going to get all their own episodes. Archdukes. So no, we'll be revisiting for sure.
Cool.
All right, so that was the first origin story, and it's the one that's presented in the 5e Monster Manual. There is a second origin story presented, and it's the Forgotten Realms one.
So the first one is they just got like spat out by night hags doing evil magics.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
devil power.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically. So the second origin presented is that the Yugoloths are actually the progenitors and or created by this ancient and mysterious fiend race known as the Yugoloths.
Okay.
Now these guys are ancient and mysterious as the Oberonths. Remember the Oberonths? We talked about them in the Abyss episode.
Yeah.
So they predate time, if you will.
Okay.
Now they're natives to the gray wastes of Hades. They appear as these rotting, diseased humanoid fiends with like the heads of skeletal horses.
Delicious.
I know, right? They dwell in twisted layers and forbidding towers in these desolate, remote locations of Hades. They're known for their mysterious schemes and like their crazy end goals that like span thousands of years, and it's all about causing as much anguish, pain, and torment as possible.
Okay.
They're like hags, with hags who are also a neutral evil, and night hags being fiends from Hades are very similar, where it's all about causing as much anguish and pain and sorrow as possible.
Yeah.
These Yugoloths are emotionlessly cold, but they're incredibly intelligent, and they're really known for knowing ancient forbidden things that like no one knows.
Oh, okay.
Which again is something that hags are known for.
That sounds like some great old one stuff.
Yeah, it definitely borderlines on that, and hags are also, if you remember the hags episode, they're usually sought out for their ancient forbidden knowledge that they know.
Okay.
And funnily enough, Yugoloths are
that's why they have like those tricky. They have like special magic.
Yeah,
like the other people don't know about.
Exactly. And funnily enough, Yugoloths who don't team up with pretty much anything do sometimes team up with night hags who dwell on the same plane. So they're like, I guess, male fiend night hags in a way, kind of. There's some similarities there. Anyways,
okay. They're like, you know what we know.
There's really
Let's get together.
Right. There's really not more to talk about than it's said that the Yugoloths maybe made the Yugoloths, and that's all that's really said.
Yeah. You don't talk about Fight Club if you're in Fight Club. It's
Apparently
like the first
not.
and second rule is what I hear.
So let's talk really quickly about the home plane of the Yugoloths, since that is also up for debate. Sometimes it's Hades, sometimes it's Gehenna, but it's stated in the Monster Manual as Gehenna. So we're going with Gehenna. And the bleak eternity of Gehenna is made up of 4 infinite layers. Now, this entire plane's shtick is that it's a sloping volcanic mass where gravity pulls at a 45-degree angle to the ground.
Damn.
So basically, it's this constant, like, sheer cliffside that's really difficult to navigate. And all the structures there have to be built leaning over to compensate.
So all the Yugoloths have, like, really strong, like, lower bodies.
Oh, yeah,
like,
you know it.
Like hammies and glutes are there.
Yeah, their glutes are on point.
They
skip
they skip shoulders and chest. Yeah. They didn't skip leg day.
It's only leg day for them.
Yeah, it's only leg day every day.
Yeah. So it's generally like this wasteland of falling ash, magma rivers. The river Styx runs through here. The river Styx runs through all the lower planes, and the Yugoloths are the ones who are most noted for being able to navigate the river Styx.
Okay.
Because it's an incredibly dangerous river to navigate, and only the Yugoloths. There's a very specific Yugoloth that has mastered this to perfection.
He's just really good friends with the main boatman.
Yeah, and they're depicted as basically skeletal boatmen.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
For sure.
And like you pay them a hefty price, and they ship the armies of the Blood War to the different planes.
Nice.
So the Yugoloths are involved.
Let's just cripple these guys financially. That's the real key.
Yeah,
to
there
victory.
It is. Yeah,
it's not numbers. It's not power. It's
economy.
It's just capitalism.
There's also endless passages filled with steam and smoke, and it's just a hellscape. At a 45-degree angle.
I love when I find myself in an endless passage filled with steam.
At a 45-degree angle?
At a 45. Oh, specifically that. No other angle will do.
Of course. Gehenna maybe will get its own episode, probably. But that's all you really need to know about it, since most of the time they're not there doing Blood War stuff anyways.
Right. That sounds like their goal is to never be there when they're in danger.
Yeah, exactly, for the most part. So let's get into some specific Yugoloths, because this is a Yugoloth episode. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So, the first kind of Yugoloth we're going to talk about are called the Mesoloths. Now, they're the bulk of the Yugoloth population, and they're these black, chitinous, human-sized insect men with like wide-set, glowing red eyes.
Okay.
They often wield like 3-pronged tridents. They serve as the foot soldiers in Yugoloth forces. They're the lowest of the Loths.
Okay.
They also have the ability to expel toxic fumes from their mandibles, and they have a below average intelligence. So they're just kind of dumb foot soldiers that love violence.
They like to gas you.
Yeah, they like to gas you. Yeah,
So-
they have 4 arms.
Okay, so they can really go for it.
They can
with the
really
gas.
stab you.
They could stab you. They could gas you.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Oh, their mandibles are on your face, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind.
Where did you think the gas
I don't know.
was
When
coming
I
from?
thought mandibles, I thought of the right thing, but I thought of them as appendages.
Oh,
and not
no.
as like the
No,
teeth,
it's
like
on their
ants.
face.
Yeah, totally.
Their tiny little face. Yeah.
Okay, they have tiny faces.
Kinda. They got this tiny mandible mouth, but then these wide red
That's right.
eyes.
All Yugoloths are small
They're-
from the waist
they're like-
up and large from the waist down because of the 45
They're
degree
like
angle. They have to
evil
lock that.
Heracrosses.
Oh, the evil.
They look a lot like evil Heracrosses.
Crazy Heracross.
With
They got hit
tridents.
with like Cartoon Network style like human or radioactive waste. Like Adult Swim is what I meant to say.
Oh yeah,
know?
there you go. So that's the Mesoloth. They're like, again, the bulk of the army, the bulk of the Yugoloth population. They're the peasants and
we
the
talk
peons.
about in Demons and Devils episodes the reproduction of Demons and Devils. Do we have that here?
We're gonna
Are there,
touch on
like-
it.
Oh, okay, I'll wait.
I mean, we can touch on it now. Okay, so there's super not a lot written about Yugoloths. I had to dig super deep, and the biggest amount of Yugoloth lore I could find was in a 2nd edition book that I can't remember the name of right now. Something to do with fiends. Anyways, there was a huge Yugoloth section, and it talks about the promotion of Yugoloths between the forms, because
Okay,
apparently
sure.
they can do that too, and about how they're replenished. But it kind of doesn't. It kind of contradicts what's been said so far in 5e. But basically, whenever a Yugoloth dies, according to the second 2e lore, Gehenna, the plane, actually will produce another one. So there's a finite number of Yugoloths, but they're infinitely replenished. Does that make
It's
sense?
just always 500, and when one dies,
Right.
Like
That's the idea.
so, if one goes out to Beator and dies in Beator, it comes back to Gehenna as the same, like it respawns the same creature. But
Right.
if one dies in
Gehenna,
Gehenna, it just gets respawned as a new creature.
Yeah,
it's like
brand
soul
new
recycled.
creature. It's not even soul recycled. That thing's dead and gone. Something new has been born.
I just absorb those resources and reform something
That's
brand new.
the idea. Now, again, this is the only place I could find this was in a 2e Planescape specific book.
Okay.
But there it is. And as for promotion through the forms, the idea is that like if a Yugoloth proves its worth at whatever form it's at to its higher ups, and then those higher ups go to their higher ups and say, hey, this dude should get promoted, that Yugoloth will get like super grilled with like an interview of like basically you got to prove yourself.
Yeah, you have to
And
put together
then-
a PowerPoint presentation of all your sales against
pretty
demons
much.
versus devils for
Yeah.
the last quarter.
Yeah, something like that. And then if all that goes through and you get the green light, then there's like this really painful purification ritual where they strip away all of your memories and experience except for like the ones they want you to keep.
Okay.
And then they change you to the next form.
Okay.
It's really weird.
it's like you're getting promoted to sales manager, and like it's like forget about all the sales you fucked up. Like only remember the good sales.
Only remember all the useful lessons. Okay, so let's keep talking about the different types of Yugoloths. The next one we're going to talk about are the Yugoloths or the Yugoloths. I'm not really. It's Nycaloths.
Oh, I've seen that.
These are the most traditional looking of the Yugoloths. They look like large, bulky green devilmen with wings.
Okay.
They look kind of like really buff green gargoyles.
Cool. I like that.
They serve as the elite shock troops of the Yugoloth forces and the airborne troops as well. They have innate magic to turn invisible, to double their image, and to teleport. So they're really, even though they're big, bulky, and strong, they're also really tricksy
because of magic
and mobile. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember the 90s animated television show like Gargoyles?
Yeah.
It's called Gargoyles.
Hell yeah.
Goliath.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of a tropey name, but I love that guy.
Is it though? How is it a tropey name for a gargoyle? I mean,
I don't know. Goliath, gargoyle. I guess, it's okay.
It's not. It was a very fitting name for some reason.
They
works
sound
really
like
well.
they look like Goliath, but green.
Yeah, they look more devilish though. They look like they almost look like a Quasit souped up. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, these guys, the
Yugoloths.
The Yugoloths.
Yeah.
Okay, so not really. I'm kind of picturing it off.
Yeah, you're picturing more gargoyle and less devil.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You said gargoyles. So.
Anyways, they're like I said, they're incredibly strong, and they usually wield like these giant weapons, like with
big ass hammers,
big ass axes, and
nice.
stuff. Yeah, and they just cleave through the battlefield.
Cool.
So that's the Yugoloth. After that, I think these guys that we're going to talk about are the most interesting. The Arcanoloths. I'm sure you're seeing a naming convention here. It all ends with loth. These guys are pretty high in the totem pole. They are jackal-headed humanoids known for their inherent shape-shifting abilities.
Okay.
They're regardless of their form, they're always well-groomed and they're always well-dressed. They're like hyper-intelligent and very manipulative. Their shtick is that they hunger for knowledge and magics above all things.
Okay.
And they're very proficient in both knowledge and magic. They command whole units.
Any high-level salesperson would be.
I suppose so, right? They command whole units of lesser Yugoloths. So, like I said, they're pretty higher up. They're like the majors in the military, maybe. I don't really know military ranks that well.
Okay.
But they're also responsible for all of the contracts, record keeping, and accounts of the Yugoloths. And trust me, they're keeping account because they're counting every coin.
Oh, yeah.
So
absolutely.
And so they're responsible for that. Another thing about them is...
the more you talk, the more my analogy feels spot on.
What was your analogy again?
About how this is because we look at the devils, like in those episodes, we make jokes about how corporate it is.
Oh, yeah.
And like this is like an offshoot of that where they're just like, this is like a used car dealership.
For a not lawful society, they're pretty lawful.
Yeah, I mean they're counting coin for sure.
They're counting coin for sure.
It's neutral, right?
It's neutral evil. Yeah,
so they're lawful when they need to be.
Yeah, pretty much it. Another shtick of the Arcanoloths is they can speak, read, and write in all languages.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, they have a really cool look to them. They look menacing, but also like
they're dressed
inviting in a way.
Yeah, they're dressed in an approachable fashion.
They really are.
So there's a Stephen King character convention with they're called the Low Men, and they dress like this, but they have the heads of and the bodies of like horrible like animal creatures, and they have these big like red dots in the middle of their forehead that look like uncoagulated blood flowing through it, and it's like the eye of the Crimson King or whatever that controls them all, etc. But they're like rat people or like birds.
Yeah, you told me about this.
And they're a lot of them dress like they're trying to be human and stuff. This reminds me of that to the T.
I think there's a lot of similarities there.
These guys, I picture them in this fashion. Like if I run it through the Stephen King filter, they're gonna be wearing like a suit, like a really nice, well pressed suit, but it's gonna be like checkered brown and white or something like crazy, like from the 60s or whatever.
I can see that for sure. Yeah. I like that image. Okay, so the final Yugoloths that we're going to talk about specifically are the Ultraloths. Now, these are the high commanders of all Yugoloths. They're considered basically the highest form.
Okay.
They look, like I said earlier, a lot like gray aliens. They're gray-skinned humanoids with an elongated head, and their face has no features except for two oval gray eyes.
Okay, nothing else. So they're like the Slenderman.
I guess so, kind of.
Slenderman look like the aliens. Go with the aliens.
Sure, yeah. Their eyes are also a weapon. They can turn into like these pools of sparkling light that will enthrall an enemy, or even implant like illusions into their head.
Okay,
and send them reeling. But yeah, they are the schemers. They're constantly trying to politically outmaneuver each other for more power and higher standing in Yugoloth society. They command entire armies of Yugoloths, and though they rarely enter the fight, they're incredibly powerful both physically and magically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's the Ultraloths. Yeah, that's what they look like and just kind of the way they are.
They're just the epitome of this structure.
Now, above all Yugoloth kind, including the Ultraloths, is a specific Ultraloth who's so powerful none oppose him.
Okay.
I would say this guy's power borders on Demon Lord, but not quite.
Okay, sure.
But he is the most powerful Yugoloth. And unlike the rest of the Yugoloths, his true name is not recorded because the Hags never recorded it. I don't know why they created this. They created this Ultraloth to control all the other Yugoloths, but I guess they wanted to leave a way for him to have autonomy. Not explained, but again, his name isn't recorded in the books of keeping.
Like they were just like, okay, make sure we record them all. And they made the first one. It was this guy, and they let him go. And they're like, so did you get, like, I forgot what I named him.
Right.
I forgot to write it down.
It could have been that,
My
sure.
bad. I'll get it on the next one.
But he is known as simply the General of Gehenna. And he dwells within a city that crawls along the wastes of Gehenna.
Ooh, that's awesome.
And from there, he oversees all of Yugoloth kind.
That's really cool.
So yeah, that's the General of Gehenna.
I like it.
So you got any questions about the Yugoloths? I know they're a weird bit of lore. They're really
So the strongest guy is this general?
yeah.
And he's
Besides
barely,
maybe the Baronoloths.
he's barely like Demon Lord power?
Yeah.
Because you're not swinging a big baseball bat at anybody if
Right.
that's what you got like, compared to these other realms.
I think this is also why the Yugoloths are so conniving and
they have to be tricksy about it.
They have to be tricksy about it because there's no way they're outpowering either of the other fiends.
Yeah, I mean, like, they've got the numbers, right? So if there's like a scale, if you need the scale tipped, you can throw them in for higher. And like, that makes sense. But maybe otherwise they kind of get ignored. Like, they're just a tool. So like, you're not going to go after them later because they're really just this like dust mite.
Yeah, I think that they would want devils and demons to see them as lesser than and not a threat.
Right.
Because then they can better manipulate both sides.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But in some of the books I was reading, they were written from like a first person perspective. And so like this adventurer was talking about how like you see at every level of the Blood War Yugoloth influence.
Oh, okay.
Or Yugoloths holding like some sort of economic power that actually really holds a sway. It's kind of like in World War I, where the U.S. was funding both sides of the war, like, well, not funding, but like selling to both sides, and because of that, had a huge amount of pull. And that's a totally different discussion, but it's kind of the same thing where like they hold these resources, or even just like the transport on the river Styx, and like even though they're smaller and weaker and less numerous,
they're holding these key economic pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. So they hold huge sway over the war.
Okay.
And so that's why the theory is like, if they hold all this power and they're evil and conniving, there's no way there's not some bigger picture thing that they're going for here.
Right.
Like, power corrupts absolutely. So, you know, and they're already corrupt anyway. So
yeah, okay.
There it is.
But it's just that's kind of left to the imagination on that
It
one?
really is left to the imagination. And again, there's not a lot of stuff written about these guys when you compare it to demons and devils.
This is one of those things that they that wizards could like expand on in the future, probably.
Definitely. And
like, here's another chapter of the Blood War. It's some Yugoloth nonsense.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
All right.
So with that being said, I think we can call it a game.
Yeah, let's call it a game.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.